Welcome to Sahel's Education. Today we are going to discuss about diseases and immunity. Pathogens and transmission. A pathogen is an organism that causes disease. Pathogens include bacteria and viruses. Organisms which harbor these pathogens are referred to as host. Pathogens can be spread from host to host through contact with an infected organism or through other mediums such as food, water, waste and bodily fluids and are thus called transmissible diseases. It is therefore important to make sure that food is prepared hygienically, waste and sewage are treated and good personal hygiene is maintained to prevent the spread of diseases. What is a pathogen? A pathogen is a disease-causing organism. What is a transmissible disease? A transmissible disease is a disease in which the pathogen can be passed from one host to another. Defenses against infection. The body's first line of defense attempt to prevent pathogens from entering the body, and it includes two barriers. One is mechanical barrier and the another one is chemical barrier. Mechanical barrier includes hairs in the nose and skin. Chemical barriers belongs to mucus, stomach acid and tears. Once the pathogen has infected the body, an immune response occurs to kill it. This involves phagocytosis and antibody production. 5 ways of diseases can be spread: droplet infection, eating contaminated food, drinking contaminated water, direct water, entry through wounds. Two chemical defenses the body uses to prevent infection. Strong stomach acid kills pathogens. Mucus contains antimicrobial chemicals. Two mechanical defenses the body uses to prevent infection. Nasal hairs used to trap and waft dirt and microbes to prevent entry into the airway. The skin acts as a barrier to pathogens. 2 ways that white blood cells protect the body from infection: phagocytosis, that is engulfing pathogens, producing antibodies which attack onto pathogens. Antibodies and antigens. Pathogens can be detected by white blood cells and are destroyed in an immune response. Each pathogen has a specific antigen protein on the cell membrane. In the immune response, lymphocytes produce specific antibodies which bind to the antigens to produce an antibody-antigen complex. As each type of pathogen has different antigens, a specific antibody which is complementary to this antigen must be made for each disease. Once the antibody binds to the antigens, the pathogens clump together, making them harmless. They can then either be killed directly or marked for destruction by phagocytes. How do antibodies work? Specific antibodies bind to antigens on the pathogen. The antibodies can either destroy the pathogen or make the pathogen easier for white blood cells to engulf. Why can only certain antibodies bind to certain pathogens? Antibodies have specific shapes and can only bind to specific and complementary antigens or pathogens. Autoimmune disease. Some diseases can be caused by an immune response on healthy body cells, where they are targeted and destroyed by the immune system. Example, type 1 diabetes. where the body targets cells in the pancreas, thus insulin can no longer be produced. Active immunity. Active immunity can be gained after an infection or through vaccination. Infection. After the pathogen has been killed, some of the lymphocytes remain as memory cells. This means that if the same pathogen ever enters the body again, the lymphocyte would recognize the antigens and be able to produce new antibodies more quickly than the first time. Memory cells stay in the body for years, thus giving long-term immunity. Vaccination. A dead or attenuated version of pathogen is given to the patient. The antigens evoke an immune response in which antibodies are produced. Memory cells are produced which stay in the body, giving long-term immunity. Vaccination can be used to control the spread of disease by providing herd immunity. This is where a large amount of the population is vaccinated and are thus immune to the pathogen. So the disease cannot spread as there are only a few people left who can still become infected. The few that cannot be vaccinated, for example, due to medical reasons, are therefore protected against the disease. Passive immunity. Passive immunity is a short-term defense against a pathogen and can be gained through acquiring antibodies from another individual. One example of passive immunity is antibodies being passed to a baby through the mother's milk. Thus, it is important for babies to be breastfed to reduce the risk of diseases. It can also be gained through injections of antibodies from a donor. Passive immunity is a short term as memory cells are not produced. What is active immunity? Active immunity is a type of immunity where white blood cells produce specific antibodies against a pathogen. State two ways that active immunity can be obtained. Vaccination, infection with the pathogen. How do vaccines work? Dead, inactive or weakened pathogens are injected into the body. The body produces antibodies against the pathogen. Memory cells are also created to provide long-term immunity. Give 4 methods of controlling the spread of disease. Hygienic food preparation, that means storing food in an appropriate condition, washing the equipments. Good personal hygiene, using tissues, washing hands and cleaning regularly. Waste disposal, proper way. Sewage removal and taking precautions to ensure it does not contaminate drinking water. What is herd immunity? The resistance to the spread of a contagious disease within a population that results if a sufficiently high proportion of individuals are immune to the disease, especially through vaccination. What is passive immunity? Where an individual is provided with short-term immunity by receiving antibodies from another individual, typically a mother to an infant. Why is passive immunity only short-term? Because no memory cells are produced in passive immunity. Why is passive immunity important to breastfed infants? The infants have not yet had time to develop their own antibodies as they have not been exposed to as many pathogens. What is an autoimmune disease? A disease where the immune system attacks the body cells. Give an example of autoimmune disease. Type 1 diabetes. Thanks for watching this video.